Dark clouds covered the moon outside the window, and the purring of a wildcat in heat made me hot underneath. After meeting my mistress during the day, his figure lingered in my mind. I had trouble controlling the deep desire inside me, and in my sleep, I felt a pair of warm hands caressing my body. The feeling was too real. My eyes snapped open to meet a hot sight. "Sir." The man gasped, his scorching breath spraying on my ears. "Little thing, for the sake of your first day here, I'll let you off the hook. My name is Fong Chu Chu, I'm an orphan, and I'm in my junior year at an end-of-the-line book. In order to earn money for living expenses, I usually work and thrift, and I also work during winter and summer vacations. 2 days ago, I saw a job posting on a corner of the school bulletin board. It said it was looking for a nanny and tutor to take care of a 7-year-old boy for the whole summer. The pay was very good, and room and board were provided. I was worried about having a place to stay after the school vacation, so I decided to apply for the job right away. I was interviewed by an extremely mean and critical middle-aged housekeeper. She took my well-prepared resume and criticized it from beginning to end as worthless. I blushed and tears of shame welled up in my eyes. I have no father, no mother, grew up in an orphanage, no good conditions. To be able to get into this last-rate one book has already put all my efforts. Just when I was being taunted by the housekeeper, the genteel mistress of the house happened to come down from upstairs and relieved me. He didn't pay any attention to the housekeeper's side of the story about my inappropriateness, but simply asked me a question. "This job is going to take up an entire summer vacation, won't your family be worried?" My tears fell instantly. Sobbing, I told him that I was an orphan and that no one in the world would remember me. Compassion flashed between the man's deep, beautiful brows. Perhaps sympathizing with me, he kept me in spite of the housekeeper's strong objections. Which knows that night, this man who makes my heart flutter, then sneak into my nanny room, on me up and down. Thinking of this, my ears couldn't help but burn red. The line of sight also didn't dare to look at the male host who was sitting on the dining table and eating elegantly. The male host's surname is Han, and he asked me to address him as Sir. The housekeeper, who looked at me with displeasure, saw me standing straight in the kitchen doorway and knocked me aside with force. I was unprepared and my shoulder knocked into the hard wall at once. Subconsciously screamed in pain and involuntarily looked towards the dining room. I happened to meet Sir's eyes as he looked over, and when I saw his thick eyebrows furrow, I scrambled to stand up straight and hang my head. He lightly glanced at the arrogant and domineering housekeeper and spoke in a warning tone. "Etienne." There was no thunderous anger or loud scolding. 2 short words, but they caused the housekeeper, Etienne, to tremble. Her high and proud head hung down and reluctantly said sorry to me. I was a bit surprised, and at the same time, I looked at the gentleman gratefully. However, I didn't expect that Mr., who acted as if he was cold as ice in front of Etienne, the housekeeper, to show me a meaningful smile. My heart was beating like thunder and my palms were sweating. Once again, my thoughts involuntarily drifted back to that blushingly ambiguous night yesterday. By the time I looked up once more, the dining room was empty. I hurriedly went up to clean up Mr. Leftover breakfast. My fingertips touched the bone china black tea cup. The smooth touch makes me can't help but think of how Mr. slightly opened his thin lips, gently sipping. And how he sealed my whispers with those sensual thin lips and drank in the sweetness of my mouth to his heart's content. Getting horny early in the morning, slutty bitch, don't think your tail is up just because you have Sir to protect you. A cold mocking voice rang in my ears, and I finally came back to my senses. The dry and thin Etienne was sizing up my flushed cheeks with a hateful gaze. I was aggravated in my heart, but very puzzled. Why is she so malicious towards me? What are you looking at me for? Hurry up and pack your things. Clumsy, I really don't know what Mr. recruited you in for. Being taunted and bullied by her one after another, although I'm a rebellious person, I also have my own little temper. Etienne, why do you hate me so much? Etienne didn't expect me to open my mouth and ask her, snorting lightly. TSK, because I just can't stand young people like you who try to use your body to get to the top. I don't. But she looked me up and down with extremely contemptuous eyes, and placed a meaningful gaze on my chest. I followed her gaze and looked down, realizing that my neckline was open, and my snow-white tender skin was half exposed, looking very tempting. My face reddened and I hurriedly gathered my collar, emphasizing with Antien once again, I really didn't. I'm simply here to work. Humph, work, fine, then you put the dishes in and wash them now. I'll take you to see the young master later. Don't forget, in addition to being a nanny, you'll also be responsible for serving as the young master's tutor. Once I heard that I was going to do my job, I didn't say much to Antien, who was extremely prejudiced against me, and hurriedly finished washing the dishes. Antien was staring at me like an overseer. After she let me finish cleaning up the dining room, she took me up to the third floor of the villa. Young master. Antien knocked on the door of the master bedroom on the third floor. Her tone was very gentle, completely different from when she was treating me. After a long time, the door slowly pulled open a crack. A pretty little boy stood behind the door, looking somewhat warily at me behind Antien. I had never seen such a good-looking child, especially his eyes, which were exactly the same as Mister's. My heart was a soft mess, and I squatted down. Hello, my name is Fong Chu Chu, I'm the tutor your father hired. Before I could finish my words, the door in front of me closed mercilessly. Antien mocked me, you think the young master is that easy to fool? Put away your foxy behavior, I'm telling you, if you don't get the young master's pleasure within 3 days, even if Mister protects you, I'll tell you to get lost. Of course I was going to stay. If I got kicked out, not only would I not get paid, I wouldn't be able to find a place to live all summer. I spent the entire afternoon on the third floor, constantly talking to the young master through the door. No matter how dry my mouth was, the door didn't show the slightest sign of opening. The sky was already dark. I lost my mind and went back to my room, lying on the bed to think of ways to please the young master. As I was lost in thought, I heard footsteps coming from outside the door. I instantly rolled over and sat up, my heart pounding violently. Is it Mister who is coming in? I gazed at the door with both fear and nervousness, and a strange and familiar feeling of alienation rose up in my body. But the footsteps only paused outside my nanny's room and left without stopping. The indefinable sense of loss rose in my heart. I didn't sleep well all night, and before dawn, I simply got up to make breakfast for Mister and little young master. When I came out with the white porridge, I found that Mister was actually already sitting in the dining room. Mister. As soon as I saw him, the roots of my ears burned. Antien wasn't there, so Mister gestured for me to sit down and eat breakfast with him. I refused in a hurry, sir, it's out of order. But Mister changed his coldness in front of Antien, and Mei grabbed my hand, his thumb ambiguously rubbing on the back of my hand. My face got even hotter, and my legs were so weak that I couldn't stand up a bit. He looked at me with a bad smile on the corner of his mouth. Little thing, Mister doesn't talk about this, sit down. I then coyly sat down. Mister was satisfied that I was obedient, and even personally served me congee. I was flattered to receive it. I did not dare to raise my head, did not dare to breathe, carefully scooped up a spoonful of congee and sent it into my mouth. The next moment I coughed violently. Mister's beautiful eyes hooked on me, his voice was low and seductive. What's wrong? He seems to especially like to see my helpless appearance. Seeing this, his eyes darkened a few points, and his breathing also got a few points of burning and roughness. The atmosphere is gradually heating up. I gradually lost in Mister's seductive eyes. However, in the next second, a dry cough pulled me back to reality, and I immediately stood up in a panic, disengaging myself from Mister's shackles. Ahem. And uncovered her mouth and walked into the dining room. Mister gave her a displeased look. Since you're sick, don't come out. Antien hurriedly piles up a smile and curtly says to Mister, there are so many big and small things inside and outside of here, no one can do it if I take a break. Thanks for your concern, Mister, I'll be fine with some medicine. Mister was swept off his feet and threw the dishes away and got up. Didn't I recruit Choo Choo for you? Let her make some for you. Saying that, he left the restaurant with big strides. As soon as Mister left, the smile on Auntie Anne's face instantly disappeared, and she looked at me viciously with those hanging triangular eyes. Slut. The ambiguous scene was caught by her, and I was weak. Auntie Anne, however, cynically grabbed me by the collar. Bitch, I reminded you to dress properly yesterday, and you're still seducing Mister today. With that, she raised her hand and slapped me hard. No, no, I didn't. You still say you didn't. If I hadn't interrupted you, were you about to sit on Mr. S. lap just now? Auntie Anne let go of her hand, but the next moment she grabbed my long hair. I screamed miserably. Never seen such a shameless little girl like you, thinking that by relying on that bit of nastiness between your legs, you can get to the top. I've seen a lot of bitcha foxes like you, every one of them is like you, thinking that they're the one and only for Mr. I shucks. Hearing this, I was enlightened. Finally, I understood why Auntie Anne had been looking at me in a bad light. You like Mr. too? Being poked by me, Auntie Anne's face full of fine lines turned green for a while and white for a while. Annoyed, she pinched on me as hard as she could, causing me to roll all over the ground in pain. After torturing me for a while, she got up and said, "You little bitch, don't think all women are like you. I'm warning you, if you know what's good for you, pack up your things and get out." I got up. No, I'm not leaving. Stupid thing. Auntie Anne was so angry that she jumped to her feet, then with a lift of her eyes, she pulled open the cupboard and slammed the valuable tableware inside. She looked at me triumphantly. "You, clean up this place for me today. No brooms or vacuum cleaners allowed. When you're done, when's dinner?" I was aggrieved, but I didn't dare to disobey. This huge villa, there are only 2 maids, Auntie Anne and I. Auntie Anne has been here for I don't know how long. Mr. wasn't here. I didn't dare to get tough with her. I just cleaned up, and my tears fell down. I obviously just want to find a job to earn a living. But Auntie Anne had to push me to my death. I squatted on the ground and picked up the porcelain shards with my hands, and when I accidentally cut my hand, blood fell. Oh. I finally couldn't help myself, burying my head and whimpering. I don't know how long it took, but I felt a hand gently patting my back. I looked up, and there was actually a small figure crouching on my side. It was none other than the little young master who died yesterday and wouldn't open the door for me. My nose was sore. Little young master. His big, dark eyes looked at me, and his little hand was still slowly patting my back. He didn't say a word, but my heart felt as if it had been ironed, becoming warm and flat. I wiped the tears from my eyes and tentatively took the little young master in my arms. He obediently let me hug him, giving me silent comfort. Little master fell asleep in my arms, and I gently returned him to the master bedroom on the 3rd floor. With little young master's support, I was instantly filled with confidence again, and gritting my teeth, I decided that no matter how much embarrassment Auntie Anne gave me, I would endure it. I knelt on the floor to clean up the mess, and only finished it at nightfall. Auntie Anne was true to her word and didn't leave me any food. I held my breath, took a hasty shower, and returned to my room. As soon as I entered, I sensed something was wrong. The faint scent of testosterone wafted through the air. The heart beat wildly. Who? I stood in the doorway and whispered, but in truth, my mind had already guessed who it was. With a low, husky laugh, Sir reached out and pulled me into the darkened room with one hand, and the next moment, hot lips covered me impatiently. I let out a cry and fell softly into his arms. He eagerly lifted me up, wrapping me tightly against his hot chest, feeling his body heat and hardness. Breathing gradually raggedly, I passively withstood his demands and was about to run out of breath before he reluctantly released me. Teasingly, "Little thing, didn't you eat? You can't even stand up." As soon as I heard this, my stomach rumbled, and the aggravation in my heart amplified. It's not that I haven't eaten. Perhaps it was Mr.'s indulgence that gave me the strength. I relied on his arms and told Auntie Anne what she had done to me. Mr. sighed, "I've wronged you." On Auntie Anne's side, "I'll ask her to restrain herself a bit." Following that, as if he remembered something, he smiled lowly and lifted my chin. His thumb slowly crushed over my lips. "Poor little thing, didn't eat. Your stomach is starving, right? Mr. has something else for you to eat. Do you want it?" I caught his hint in an instant. My back and legs were too weak to sit. I slid off his lap and sat on my knees in front of him. "Want it?" Above my head, he was dictating to me like a sovereign god, and I simply couldn't say no. Finally answering in a whisper, "Yes." Mr. smiled pleasantly as he slowly stood up, his tall body a mountain in front of me sitting on my knees. His clothes off, and I trembled and bent down, to do as he said. This night, I truly became Mr. S woman. He taught Antian a lesson for me, and I didn't see her again for a few days after that. Without Antian as a spoilsport, I took care of the young master during the day, and at night, I had sex with Mr. in my small bed. I loved his strong body and the way he growled and moaned when he was in the throes of passion. I loved the way he held me down and controlled me. It was a week before Aunt returned to the villa. She looked even drier and thinner, and her face was quite waxy. It was as if she had been very sick. In contrast, I have Mr. Night and Night moisturizing, face rosy and shiny. Even the cups in front of my chest are bigger. Perhaps I was rebuked by Mr. Hard. When Antian saw me in this state, she actually didn't scold me for being a slut and a wannabe like before, but gave me a cold look. But I don't know why, but I can't help but to have a cold war. Her eyes, looking at me as if looking at a dead person. I couldn't help but feel an extreme defense against her rising in my heart. Antian has unspeakable feelings for Mr., and Mr. is infatuated with me. There was a high probability that she would harm me. At night, when Mr. slipped into my nanny's room again and hugged me for a deep nibble, I gasped and pushed his head buried in my chest. Mr. Sir. He looked up disgruntled. What's the commotion? I see that he doesn't look too happy and I quickly pout with him. Antian came back today and I'm a little scared. Scared of what? Did she give you a hard time again? Mr. was not amused. No, I just think she looked at me with creepy eyes. Before I could finish my sentence, Mr. actually picked me up. I was so scared that I wrapped my legs tightly around his lean waist. Mr. He gasped, I've cleaned her up, she doesn't dare to talk nonsense to you anymore, don't be afraid of her, if you don't believe me, we can play something exciting. What's exciting? I wrapped my arms around his neck, my whole body climbed on his body. Mr. Evil Smile unexpectedly hugged me and pushed out the door. I screamed in terror. Sir. Both of us are now naked. But Mr. turned a deaf ear and carried me in his arms as he strides out the door, my whole body tensing up with both fear and yet inside I felt a slight thrill of back demeanor. He carried me to the leather couch in the living room and galloped me. My heart was beating like a drum in fear of Aunt and popping out of nowhere. He slapped my ass with a crunching sound. Concentrate. I was too bashful to look up at the sound, so I buried myself in his arms, fluctuating to his rhythm. But when I inadvertently inclined my head, I realized that there was a pair of eyes staring at us dead on in the dark. I screamed and slapped Mr. hard on his back. Someone. Mr. Sweaty stopped moving, turned his head and smiled in disbelief. The little bugger's out, leave him alone, he can't read. My heart immediately fell to the bottom. How can I be in front of the little young master? I struggled up hard to run, but instead I pleased Mr. He pulled my hair hard and dragged me back, with a force as if he wanted me dead. My mind is dazed, and I don't remember how I ended up going back to my room. The only thing I can remember is the little young master's eyes staring at me in the dark and scary. Being crushed by a small child and his father cheating on me made me very embarrassed. And the little young master didn't seem to know anything, as Mr. said. He actually understood everything. The next day, the young master, who was originally very close to me and well-behaved, suddenly rebelled against me. He would throw all the food I had prepared at me, and tear up all the homework I had tutored him in. Even when I tried to touch him, let out a mournful scream. Whenever this happened, Antian, who looked like a ghost, would float over, pick up the frantic young master, and coldly tell me to go away. I was sad. Because the young master was the only one who had ever shown me the purest kindness. I sometimes spit on myself for having gotten involved with the young master's father without any shame. But this spurning was always drowned out by the passion that Monsieur had for me. I began to sink into the pleasure that Monsieur gave me. Until one day, when the young master ate my cooking, he suddenly had difficulty breathing, his whole body broke out in a red rash, and his whole body swelled up immediately. Antian was shocked and went up to check on him for 2 seconds, and immediately turned back to me and gave me a hard slap. I was hit in the eye and my head buzzed. He's allergic, you bitch, what the hell did you give young master? I was at a loss. Antian let go of me and immediately called for an ambulance. The little young master was sent to the hospital for emergency treatment. Auntie came back after a long time. Anxiously waiting for news in the villa, I immediately went forward and grabbed her. How is the young master doing? Auntie pushed me away. How dare you ask? Bitch, you almost killed him. I didn't. I tried to defend myself. How could I hurt young master? Auntie pinched my face hard and stared at me with an expressionless death stare, then sneered. Who knows, after all, you climbed into Mr. S. bed, the sparrow turned into a phoenix, thinking of becoming Mr. S. main wife is not certain, the existence of the little young master is not in your way. No, it's not like that. I desperately wanted to explain, but Auntie didn't listen. When Mr. comes back, I'll tell Mr. truthfully about everything you've done. If you have any self-awareness, pack up your own things and get out now. No, I didn't do anything, I'm innocent. Sir will believe me. Although I said this on my lips, I actually had no bottom at all in my heart. Will Mr. really not suspect me? The little young master is his only child after all. In the evening, Mr. returned home, looking all business as usual. I carefully served him with tea and water, but I didn't want him to take me into his arms and bury his head in my hair to take a deep breath. What's wrong, circling around me like a little bee, did you do something wrong? My heart stuttered. Ever since I'd been caught at the scene of my youngest's affair with Sir, I hadn't quite dared to be so intimate with Sir anywhere other than the bedroom. Today I was pestering him so much, so I guess I must have made him notice. Young master ate the dishes I made and suddenly became allergic and was sent to the hospital. I crossed my heart, thinking that stretching my head is a knife, shrinking my head is also a knife, so I might as well explain it first. Saving Auntie from making things up about me again in front of Mr. Mr. smiled, scared. I nodded my head. The aftershock and the aggression of being threatened by Auntie came pouring out. I didn't do anything at all. How did the young master suddenly become allergic? Auntie balked at the idea that it was me who did it, but it really wasn't me. Mr. rubbed my back to pacify me. I know it wasn't you, you little thing with such a small guts. How dare you harm my son? His eyes were cold, and as I watched, I couldn't help but shiver. Little, young master, is still in the hospital. Well, I know, I went to see him, he's out of danger, you don't need to worry, there's Auntie guarding over there. I was so relieved. Mr. couldn't help but smile, seeing you with this worried look, it's quite a bit like a mother anxious about her son. My heart lifted again. Mr.'s deep eyes looked at me. Choo-choo, I've been single for a long time, I just want to find someone who is good to my child. Do you mind being my son's mother? My heart burst with excitement. Yes, I do. After blurting it out, I realized how unreserved I was just now, and blushed in a flash. Mr. picked me up in a hug and sauntered into his bedroom, placing me on the bed and leaning down to shackle me. Of course, being the mother of my child, you're not, right now, here enough. His eyes landed teasingly on my breasts. I instantly covered my face in shame. Little thing, I'm going to give you a little something nice, would you like to use it? I dropped my hands and looked at him curiously. What is it? Sir, however, got up and pulled a small, delicate leather case out of the check room. He opened it and I stretched my head to see it, and reddened. Inside there, it was densely packed with all sorts of erotic paraphernalia. Seeing me peeping, Mr. teased, so desperate. You can't even move your eyes when you see this stuff. What, the living is not enough to satisfy you? I couldn't help but hit Mr. a few times. Mr. is too bad. Men aren't bad and women don't love them. He ran his long fingertips across the paraphernalia and reached inside and pulled out a brown bottle. He opened it and poured it out, 2 pink pills. Take them. He handed them to me. Curious, I picked them up and surveyed them. What is this? But I didn't expect the gentleman to answer. It's something that will make you a mother. Under his burning gaze, I still tilted my head and swallowed the 2 pills. Mr. was so excited to see me take the pills that he tossed me around all night with the contents of this little box. From that night after taking the pills Mr. gave me, he gave me a whole bottle. I was instructed to take 2 pills every day. I obeyed. I didn't know what it was, but I figured Sir wouldn't harm me. After taking them for a while, my chest started to swell and hurt every night, as if it was developing twice. I probably guessed what kind of medicine Mr. gave me. The next day the sun was shining when Sir called me into the garden. Undress. I wrapped my trench coat tightly around me and squirmed, in, here. Sir nodded, his eyes darkening. He spoke seductively, as if he were saving tempting to sink. Don't be afraid, this is our own garden, no one else will see. But, Auntie. Hush, don't mention this old woman, she's very sensible and won't come out. I had no more reason for delay, but spare me the fact that I had nothing on under my trench coat, and it was difficult for me to take the step of being completely naked in broad daylight. Sir sighed, slightly disappointed. It seems that the little thing is still not very brave. Forget it, I won't force you, I can find other better behaved children. No, don't find someone else. As soon as I heard Mr. Disappointed say that he was going to find another woman to tame, I got anxious. I would not allow him to finger another girl. Seeing my anxiety, Sir laughed slowly. What's wrong with being afraid I'll move on? Little jealous girl. I gritted my teeth, my eyes closed and my cheeks rolled as I violently pulled away the trench coat wrapped around me. I kept struggling underneath him, my snowy complexion shaking in the sunlight. He kept calling my name out of his mouth. Choo-choo, choo-choo. At the last moment, vaguely said, you little thing, really can't let you go. I heard it, and my eyes flashed. Following the undressing in broad daylight, Mr. came up with many ways to temper me. Like making me ride a crowded bus in a vacuum. Like making me wear a collar and crawl around the park at night completely naked. My sense of shame gradually wore away in these out-of-the-ordinary training. Mr. was so wrapped up in me every day that he couldn't get out of it, often panting and laughing at me for being a siren who was going to suck him dry sooner or later. I'm not too afraid of Mr. now. He's too enamored of my body, and I can bully myself with that. Aunt would occasionally appear to me and look at me with a pitying look like I was a fool. I thought she'd do something to me, but to my surprise she didn't. And after the young master almost lost his life from his allergies, Auntie Anne watched him very closely and didn't let me touch him a bit. That made me lose my mind slightly. But soon enough, the pleasure Mr. gave me made me forget that loss. On this day, Mr. had gone on another trip and didn't come home for a few days. I was standing at the stairway ready to go down when little young master suddenly appeared behind me. Young master. I was very surprised. Because ever since he bumped into the scene of me and Mr. making love, he resented me for being dirty and seldom came so close to me. I smiled gently at him, squatted down, and tried to touch his face. As a result, the little young master was still looking at me with those big dark eyes. He didn't move a muscle, allowing me to gently pinch his soft little face. I was overjoyed. Little young master, you're willing to pay attention to me. He didn't say anything. I quite like you, and Mr. asked me if I wanted to be your mother. Before the words left my mouth, my eyes widened. The next moment, I tumbled down the stairs. Sharp pain swept through my entire body, and in the last second before my consciousness fell into darkness, I saw the young master standing tall at the top of the stairs, his hand still in the position of pushing me down. My leg was broken. Mr. learned about this and hurried back. His face was hard to see. He gently stroked my leg with an unbearable expression on his face. He got up violently and slapped hard at Auntie Anne who was standing behind him. The slap was so hard that I watched as the dry, thin, short Auntie Anne flew off. Mr.'s expression was so twisted now that I didn't dare to speak. Auntie Anne climbed up and spat out a mouthful of blood with a tooth in it. Mr. said nothing and pushed the door open with force, striding towards the third floor with heavy steps. Seeing this, Aunt Anne let out, as I had ever heard in my life, a mournful yell. Sir. It's not the young master's business. She grunted and rose from the ground, stumbling on her hands and knees to go after Mr. I was in a hurry too. Sir was so strong, how could the young master take a beating from him? But I had broken my leg and couldn't move. In a short while, the third floor was filled with the heart-rending sound of noise and crying. Finally, the noise ended with Auntie Anne's shrill Han Chao Xing. The entire villa was awfully quiet all of a sudden. Han Chao Xing. Is that Mr. Han's name? I clenched my quilled feet, deepening his name into my heart. It was obvious to me that ever since I broke my leg, Sir's fascination with me had diminished greatly. I wanted to do something about it, but I couldn't stand up. Mr. visited me every day, but always avoided my contact. Sometimes he would look at me in a daze, and sometimes he would be helpless. Choo-choo, don't move your leg, it won't look good if you move it crooked. Does he like my body or me as a person? I was a little confused. Until one day, Mr. brought me a glass of milk. He looked at me with a gentle gaze, no more lust for me in his eyes. My heart was bleak. There are some things that you know without having to say them out loud. Choo-choo, drink this glass of milk, you tomorrow, leave. Mr. turned his face away from me, not daring to look at me, his eyes slightly red. I also had a sore nose and nodded, taking the milk and drinking it in one go. When I woke up again, the people had already reached the border. The corner of my mouth quietly curved up in an imperceptible arc. Sir himself drove me, what a great honor. Seeing me wake up, Mr.'s gaze flickered. Choo-choo, you'll forgive Mr. right? I asked fearfully, pretending to know nothing as I looked out the window of the car at the jungle mountain road that was a far cry from the car-lined metropolis. Sir, what the hell is going on? Didn't you tell me to quit my job and go home? Mr. looked at me with reddened eyes and suddenly laughed, tears streaming down his face. Choo-choo, you can't go back, he said as he pulled the car door open and got out, walking to my side of the car and roughly opening the door to rip me off. My injured leg wasn't healed yet, and him pulling me down like that made me yelp out in pain. His hand lurched, a pinch on the back of my neck, gritted his teeth and whispered in my ear, Choo-choo, you should also be contented, ordinary and common orphan, enjoying a luxurious life for such a long time. Mr. also personally sent you here, in the future in Maine North, whether you die or live, you have to read this bit of goodness from Mr. Said he pushed me over with one hand, and several dark-skinned men emerged from the bushes across the street to catch me. He gave me one last reluctant look and twisted his head determinedly away. I yelled after him. Han Chaoxing. Sir turned around quickly, his startled eyes looking at me. I didn't have the slightest bit of the fear or terror he thought I had on my face. Instead, I faced him with a wry smile. Your time to die has come. As soon as my words fell, densely packed plainclothes police and armed police soldiers rushed out from the dense forest, instantly pinning Mr. to the ground. He was confused at first, and then came to a realization, staring at me in death. Fang Choo-choo. The plainclothesman who took the lead in pinning him down gave him a hard punch, knocking his teeth out and sending a mouthful of blood spattering out. Be honest, Han Chaoxing, you're under arrest. I looked at him condescendingly and gritted my teeth. Do you remember Lin Ce? Ce was the most important person in my life. We grew up together in an orphanage and were as close as sisters. She happily told me one day that she had found a well-paying job as a live-in nanny for a large family, with food and lodging included. She gave me half of her advance and disappeared. I never heard from her again. I called the police, took a break from school, and tried everywhere to find her, but nothing. Until a policeman came to my door and told me that he suspected that my best friend had been trafficked out of the country. Later, he told me sorrowfully that my best friend had been sold by a treacherous criminal to the north of Burma, with no bones left. He asked me if I wanted to avenge my friend's death. I clenched my fists and gritted my teeth and said yes. Even at any cost. Even if it costs anything. Just like that, I tore down the job posting in the corner that offered a high salary for a live-in nanny and stepped into the villa that seemed like it could eat people. Anton looked at me with relief before she was taken away by the police. I thought that you were a stupid woman who was mesmerized by skin and glory, but I didn't expect. You were actually an undercover agent. I smiled faintly. I appreciate your kindness. Antian was Han Chaoxing's original wife. Under Han Chaoxing's long-term mind control, she was his right-hand man. With a superior skin, Han Chaoxing lured ignorant girls into the trap and sold them to Southeast Asia at a high price for special services after they were trained by his hands. He makes huge profits. Antian could not bear to see these girls being cheated, but she was afraid of being discovered by Han Chaoxing. Then can only pretend to be jealous of the appearance, tossing every girl who came into the villa. The reason why she treated me like that was also because she wanted to save my life. Antian smiled, her eyes cast behind me, tears welling up in her eyes. My son, Choo-choo, I'm counting on you. I shook her hand and solemnly promised, I will take care of her. For no other reason than the fact that he once tried to swallow allergy food to try to force me out of that devil's den, I would take care of him growing up. He would be the only family I had in this life. A moment after brushing past me, Aunt asked me softly. Did you ever like him? I shuddered inwardly and closed my eyes. Han Xiaoxing's face floated in my mind, and I forced myself not to think about it. But in the end, something was still different.